We're good.
All right. Process, preparation, performance. We're back, JR. We're back in Quincy, Illinois tonight with Coach Sean Kelly. He's been in Quincy for about a decade now, and he's got a lot of experience to talk about. If you looked at the list of people that he has coached and their accolades, you would want this guy on your staff. Coach Bass tagged him at our last podcast. So we said, why not? Let's go right back to Quincy. It's a good place. I love it. I met my wife there. We had a pretty good time there. So he's there now, and we're going to get to him, JR. But you had something very interesting happen to you. You're on a bike ride.
Yep.
You're on a bike ride, and you get a flat tire.
Yeah, that happens way too much.
Okay, so. but this time something extra special happened. What happened?
It was a little different. So I was sitting there kind of on the side of the trail there, and I was actually rode it up to a bench. I rode it about a mile with a flat tire. That's awesome. And so I'm sitting on this bench, I'm changing the tire, and this guy rolls up in this contraption. So it looks like a recumbent bike. I don't know if anybody really knows what that is, but you kind of sit on the ground, your feet are out in front of you, and you pedal. And he kind of cruises up, and he goes, "How much pressure do you have in your tubulars?" And I'm like, and I said, okay, so, tubulars would be tubes. And I'm like, all right, heavy German accent going on here. So I said, I'm running about 80. He goes, too much, need to drop pressure. He goes, no more flats, remember me. So, and he cruises off, and he's got like a hybrid recumbent to where there's some type of electric motor thing going on. But the coolest thing about it, he's got a little cage he made on the back of it, and his dog sits in it. So his dog fits in the cage, and I'll tell you what, I'll be damned. I dropped the pressure in my tires 10 pounds down to 70. I've not had a flat in the last 3 weeks. And I'm like, yeah, that dude, I'm definitely got to remember. This is one of the strangest things. And I tell you what was weird yesterday. I rode 40 miles yesterday. So I got pretty close to Columbia, and I passed, and Connie was with me, and I passed these two Mizzou students, it looked like, going the other direction, and they were just stopped. So we went up about half a mile, turned around, and I'm looking back down there, and I could see them because they had on the Mizzou colors. And so I saw them kind of take off riding, and we started back again the same direction. Have no clue where they went. They like disappeared into there was nowhere they could have went, but they were just gone. It was like they got abducted or something. It's just.
Where are you riding, JR?
You see some weird stuff on the Katy Trail, man. There was a dude we passed the other day. Homeboy had no shirt on. He had on a pair of like short running neon orange shorts and no shoes, just rolling down the trail.
Riding a bike?
Riding a bike. No water, no nothing. I'm like, what? It looked like he was on the beach.
Did he at least
see
have
some
a helmet?
Weird stuff? No helmet. That just drives me nuts. People that don't wear helmets. It's too dangerous. But I tell you, I can tell bike riding stories all day. Good night. Some of the crap I've seen out there, it defies imagination.
We got to go on a bike ride sometime, JR. Maybe we'll bring Coach Kelly. He said he gets on the bike.
He said something about a bike.
Yeah, he said he gets on the bike in the morning. So let's
all right.
Maybe we'll get on the bike. But JR, I'm going to kick this off with not a question that you came up with, not a question that I came up with, but with a question from Coach Bass, the head coach at Quincy University of the Hawks. He wants to know, Coach Kelly, how did you like wearing Barney purple?
Funny question. That was probably like the first thing he asked me whenever he first got hired here as the offensive line coach and run game coordinator, and getting to know me. And he's like, "Oh, where'd you play college ball at?" I'm like, "Oh, McKendree." He's like, "Aren't they Barney purple?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess you could say that. Like, never really thought of it that way. I mean, he's not wrong." But how I liked it, definitely wasn't my first choice of colors. I actually almost went to Culver Stockton.
Whoa.
Blue and silver then.
Yeah. That was way more my colors, but got on campus at McKendree, loved it there, and figured I could deal with the purple. Thought I looked really good in the jersey. I only have one purple shirt from there, and I look back at pictures, and I'm like, woof, not good. So, jersey, okay. Everything else, not good. We had a lot of gray and black and white, so didn't have to wear too much.
Fair enough.
I'm looking over your right shoulder, Coach Kelly, and I see What we got going on back there? I see an H back. I see we got a front drawn up back there. What we got going there?
Yeah, that's kind of just our base 2-high shell.
Okay.
I'll tell you the cool thing about that though, and I got this from one of my buddies. Those are magnets.
Oh wow.
So it's not even a marker, so that's a magnetic board. And you want to teach kids how fits work, when you're drawing up all the lines and everything. Now you're actually showing them like, hey, this guy is gone. We're moving this guy over here. You're blocking power. You're moving everything where you need to and telling them to cover up all the gaps. And I think it's a phenomenal learning tool for us, especially when teaching. Like now I'm teaching D-line stunts and showing them how like those creases open up, which is very tough to show on a whiteboard. So, that's something that we I think we did those last year or 2 years ago, and they've been huge for us.
Yeah.
Nice.
You do know it's upside down, right? Offense always goes first the other direction.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned fitting up on the run. This kind of popped into my head here. What do you think is the hardest thing in teaching run fits?
I think the hardest thing is initially getting your guys to understand what offenses are trying to do is they're trying to outnumber you to one side, and how the gaps can exchange, and especially with the way the run games are evolving now and everything's kind of trickling down from the NFL to FBS to FCS and down to Division II. You're getting a lot of false pullers, false keys, but kind of looking at a kid and telling them, I know the ball's going over there, but they have a swiper coming across, and I need you to go opposite of the ball. And you say that to a young backer or safety sometimes, and their head explodes because the only thing they were ever taught was, Coach, I just go get the ball, right? It's like, yeah, I mean, not really, but through your gap responsibility. But I think that's definitely the toughest thing for young kids when coming up here, and shoot, sometimes even young GA coaches with kind of just the way I was taught, and I kind of bring that knowledge to them of just how we do things here. And, it's kind of interesting just to make sure that we're always matching those numbers and everything like that.
Yeah.
So
With that being
conversation.
With that being said, you teach run fits, like, hey man, your fit is here, but if your gap moves, you gotta go. But like you're talking about, I need you to go do this because otherwise, they're going to throw backside or they're going to do something because they just see you not, honoring your assignment. With that being said, I'm going to flow that right into one of the things you've taken pride in is really recruiting a certain area in Missouri and getting linebackers that you've had tremendous success coaching linebackers. I mean, guys have gotten all kinds of accolades, even All-American and stuff. So when you're going after kids that need to do that stuff, and they've been taught, hey, you go tackle football. What is it that you're looking at so that transition doesn't have to be so steep?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us, and kind of when looking at linebackers, and I don't necessarily have a certain GPA in mind because I don't think that always correlates. But if we're looking at a kid that may not be the highest GPA and there's a kid with a higher GPA, we're probably going to take the kid with a higher GPA. But also I think once you get a kid on a phone and talk to him and bring him up on a visit and kind of figure out what his football knowledge is, we want to bring those football knowledge kids first. Love quarterbacks too. I've had 2 linebackers that have been all conference for me that were actually high school quarterbacks, and they see the field very well. Also love, and for this aspect, high school running backs. Our starting my linebacker right now, he was a high school running back, played a little bit of linebacker, but you still ask him to this day, he's a running back at heart. But I love those guys because they have great vision. They can see, especially if you can find a guy that runs in between the tackles and has to read off blocks and everything, those guys generally see the field really, really well. And then running backs usually fit into our other athletic categories where it's like, can he run? Does he have, disregard for his body at times? Is he going to turn down a hit or not? Is he a guy that's going to run physical? And then, another guy that we like to project down would be big safeties. It's kind of what we look for too. So it's becoming such a pass happy theme, especially here in the GLVC, to where you got to get guys that can move really well in space and everything like that. And, safeties are generally, you can move a kid from back where he's seen everything just a little bit closer, and, things seem to make a little bit more sense for him. So that's kind of the big things that we look for.
When you're looking at identifying some guys who can play in space, what would you say is like the top 3 things, or maybe an intangible that you're like, they got to have this, or it's just going to be a hard pass for me here?
The first thing that I look at is, in the open field, do they hesitate when they're trying to make a tackle? Are they a kid that tries to break down and chop their feet the entire time, or are they a kid that is going to attack with proper leverage and at least shoot their shot? Like, especially like when I'm talking to linebackers in practice, or really any defensive type of player in practice, there can't be any hesitation. Once you hesitate, you give that offensive guy everything that he wants, and now you haven't closed as much ground on him and taken away his options. So I think the biggest thing for me is just finding guys that are confident in the open field and not afraid to make a mistake. I think sometimes kids get out there and they're petrified to make a mistake. And I always tell guys, I literally teach them, if you're going to miss a tackle, miss it over here so your friends can come help you. Mm-hmm. Shoot your shot, shoot at that leg, shoot at that near hip, same foot, same shoulder it. If you're going to miss it, at least he's going into your friends, or if he runs you over, at least you can fall back and hold on for the tackle.
Yeah. You kind of mentioned how everything filters downwards right now. Like NFL goes to the FBS, which goes down. And high school, it seems, just to me, over the past 5 years or so, you have to tackle in space, because the easiest thing is to get these athletes one-on-one, get a mismatch, and then we're off to the races, and now we're playing basketball on grass.
Right.
And so what would you say if somebody's having some trouble teaching their kids to tackle in space? What would be a great starting point for them?
I think the biggest thing to help kids with tackling is you have to define leverage. And I know last year our guys got sick of me saying the L word. It wasn't necessarily love, which I say that a lot to them too, but it was leverage. Everything to them. How is your leverage on that block? How is your leverage on the tackle? What leverage do you need to be able to force that guy to your help? But no matter what, whenever you end up on a ball carrier, you should determine a leverage. The worst place for me to be against a ball carrier is head up. I have to either be to his left side, to his right side, so I can force him some way. And then from that, we teach here, same foot, same shoulder. So as those guys are coming, they're kind of going downhill at a 45 and bringing that same foot, same shoulder to where they should make contact with their left foot, left shoulder, or their right foot, right shoulder. And that way, especially if you have a guy that now is going to break your leverage because he's faster than you or everything, now you have to understand how I can change my leverage. And because he ate it up, but now I switch to same foot, same shoulder the other way. And then I still have a leverage to take. And I'm still pushing him, and hopefully it's lateral and not vertical. Because if they're going lateral, then they're not gaining any yards, and that's our main job.
When kids first come in, say you get a freshman and you think this dude can do it, how long does it take them to really understand leverage? Or do they ever really understand it?
I think sometimes it depends on the kid. I've had some kids where it takes them 2 years, 3 years. Some kids get it basically right after spring ball. It kind of just depends. We haven't brought in a whole bunch of kids here that it's been natural to them, because a lot of kids they're just, kind of rugby tacklers where, they get to as close as they can and they make the tackle, and there's necessarily a whole bunch of technique into it, as opposed to if they do the whole, drop my hips, wrap, drive for 5, all that stuff. But there is I think the part that's not coached enough is the part where you're getting to that point where you're making the tackle. because to me, missing a tackle doesn't really have much to do with how physical you are. It's how can you put yourself in that position. Majority of our missed tackles last year were because we were in the incorrect position when we were supposed to be able to make the tackle. And that goes back to alignment, assignment, eyes, footwork, anything like that, to where, were there some open field missed tackles? Yeah, we missed leverage on that. But you can look at a lot of stuff in the box and even outside the box based on where was I supposed to be when that guy got the ball, and then how can I use my leverage to be able to help me make the play.
Yeah.
If a kid has really good leverage, he's going to be better than a really good athlete that doesn't have good leverage, to me.
Yeah.
Football, JR, it's all lines and angles.
Yeah.
It's lines and angles. And 245s make a 90. And at some point, you're going to intersect. And, you teach tackling, and I've taught it to really young kids, and I've taught it to high school kids, and I've, in between, and getting to play myself. And there's a point, and Coach Kelly, you can talk about this because you're doing it now as the DC there at QU. But at some point, no tackle is a bad tackle. You got them on the ground. You accomplish the goal.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So you got it. You got it there because it's not easy to learn that all the time. And I really do think, and you mentioned it, Coach, because you're bringing kids from back to front because of size and speed and moving. I really think, JR, call me crazy, but I think you're going to find a team sell out, go as big as they can, and start running triple option at people because people have thinned out so much.
Yeah.
You're gonna see some 240-pound fullback with a big ass tailback and some wide bodies across the front, and they're gonna ISO until you switch out your people and go from there. But who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
It may happen, it may not. Coach, when you're going to, you'd have to spin that board around for me, I think, but it's okay. I totally get it. When you're coaching the kids up on defense and you're running this and you're working run fits, who have been some of the best, and who's coming up right now for QU that you're like, this kid has got it. They know what they're doing.
Yeah. For us, the kid that's been the best at it just happens to be here right now. And his name is Peyton Chappell. He was our first team all-conference middle linebacker last year as a redshirt sophomore. And it was really, truly his first year starting. He started 4 games the year before, but he was behind Cody Leonard, who was that All-American kid. But I look at Peyton Chappell, and he's a kid that has a lot of playmaking ability, very similar to Leonard. But he's a kid that's truly a student of the game, and he's really kind of taken to not necessarily just a scheme-wise, but how the technique and the film study can benefit him. He's been one of the best I've had. Just, I think, all-around linebackers. He's a pretty special kid.
Nice. You've come and spoke at our clinic a couple of times, which has been, we're very grateful for that.
Yeah.
And I've heard nothing but good things. I hear all the time, this Coach Bass talked about it. He's like, hey man, Sean makes this run. He's like, I'm here, I got the job, but Sean's making this run. What a young guy wants to get into coaching, college football. Maybe he played, maybe he didn't. What do you've worked your way up the ladder, man. I mean, you're a DC now. You've been there for 10 years. You're doing it. From what Coach Bass says, you're like the guy behind the curtain. I mean, super kudos to you. But a young guy wants to get into college football coaching. How does he do it? What do you tell him to do? Because you've obviously walked up that stairway really, really well.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, like when I was just trying to jump in, like I let my college coaches know. I figured out in college that I wanted to be a college coach after I saw that all they did was football, and I thought that was awesome. I was like, that sounds perfect. I was going to be a high school history teacher, and being a college football coach sounded a lot better to me.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing I let them know was that I wanted to do it, and then so it kind of started my network. But then I also applied to probably 90 jobs as a graduate or for a graduate assistant job, and was very, very fortunate to get some interviews. And I actually, got a chance to actually pick where I wanted to go, which was, I didn't realize at the time, but very, very privileged to be able to do that. But I think the biggest thing, and kind of having been a part of hiring GAs here and hiring other coaches here, is if you want to get into college coaching, any opportunity that you get is a phenomenal opportunity. Just a way to get your foot in the door. I think that's probably the most important thing, is just being able to get your foot in the door. And then once you get your foot in the door and you get there, you have to do something special there. And I think the way, like why I've been able to be so successful here at Quincy, in terms of moving up the ladder and everything, is just as you get that job, be willing to do anything and everything that's ever asked of you. My biggest thing is, when I was a first year GA, I knew I probably wasn't going to be the best linebacker coach in the conference because just sheer knowledge and everything. But I knew that recruiting is a very big part of football, especially college football. And I was like, that just seems like a relationship piece and something that you can work really hard at. So I decided to try to be the best recruiter I can be. And then once I proved that I was a good recruiter, then I started trying to take on any other small job that I could to be able to get that experience and pretty much make myself to where if I left, they would be, oh crap, what do we do now?
Yeah.
So I think that I do know that kind of kept me in the job when I was kind of there in limbo for a while. Like, hey, I'm done with my GA. What are you guys going to do right now? It's tough to get rid of the guy that's doing film, laundry, academics, and doing a lot in recruiting, so
Right.
that was probably the biggest thing that I did. And then I think the other thing is just I treated every single day with everybody that was on staff like a job interview. To me, I was working for every single person's recommendation, because you never necessarily know where someone's going to end up, when they're going to end up. And, obviously people will tell you, well, yeah, obviously you work hard in front of the head coach, but I've had some graduate assistant friends that have gone really good places, and, some of the full-time guys, to me, you have to interview for everybody and ask yourself the question, is there anyone on the staff that wouldn't hire me? And if there is, what can I do to fix that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned recruiting. What's the wildest recruiting visit you've been on? Got a crazy story or anything?
He's smiling, JR. So there's one that he doesn't want to talk about, and that's okay. That's all right. That's all right. We're going to hear it.
There was a really fun time when Coach Bass first got the head coaching job. That just like right after the season, we decided we were going to go down to Florida, and Coach Bass decided that me being the defensive coordinator and him being the offensive guy, that we were going to go down to Florida. So we went down to the Tampa area.
Okay.
And that was really, truly kind of the first time I thought, wow, this is like real recruiting for me.
Yeah.
Like, when I go recruiting in St. Louis, I stay at my parents' house and have dinner with my parents and, see my sister and everything, and got to jump on a plane, got to go to all these schools, got to stay in a hotel, and, we had an absolute blast, and we happened to stay right next to the beach too. So that
Perfect.
helps. So that was a great time.
Tampa's a
I told Bass
beautiful area.
anytime. Oh,
It's
it was
beautiful.
awesome. It was awesome. And we knew one of the high school head coaches there. So he took us out to dinner like 3 nights, and it was a great time.
It's amazing what you can just see around our country sometimes. I love the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to go down to Pensacola Beach every year. And, and I've been down to Tampa. I went down and went to an IMG thing just to check that place out. And it was unbelievable. The Bradenton area, all that place down there. It's incredible. So I'm going to ask you this one. Bill and I talk about this a lot. We've been discussing this quite a bit lately.
I'm a little concerned. Okay.
It's all right. We got plausible deniability. So
okay.
So we talk sometimes about within an offense, is it better to just be able to package stuff to where, say, you show a little option, but then it's not necessarily your whole offensive philosophy? So I'm
Mhm.
curious from your standpoint, what is harder to deal with? Somebody that's got a philosophy and we're going to bring it at you as many different ways as we can. Like, we may have power as our main thing, but we're going to
Mhm.
formation and try to confuse you. Or is it somebody it's like, holy hell, I mean, what are they going to come out in next? Because we've got option. Now we're getting zone read. Now we're getting this. What's more difficult, do you think?
The one I'll tell you is more difficult, but I also believe it's harder to do on the offensive side is when you throw a whole bunch of stuff out there, and you can do a whole bunch of different things. Like to me, some of the toughest offenses that we go against are the teams that stay in the same personnel and give us every formation imaginable. I know we played Drake back in 2016, I believe, and they were a base 12 personnel team, but they could get in 10 personnel formations, they could get in 21 personnel formations, 12 personnel, 11 personnel, to where for us, you're kind of calling it blind because you don't necessarily know exactly what they're going to do. But I do think that is a little, you have to have the players to do that. And I think you're probably always going to be a little bit more successful honing in on, like, I'm a very big believer of keep it simple for the kids and let them play fast. And my kids playing fast are going to be better than your kids guessing, So I think the more you can keep it simple is the better, but it's tougher to game plan if you do a lot.
A lot of stuff. Yeah.
Even kind of talking to other offensive coordinators in the league. There's some guys that toss in triple every once in a while, and there's some things that, like, I think offensive coordinators think they're kind of getting one up on, but if it's not something that you major in, we'll have a check throughout the year, and we'll just put that in and roll with it usually. So sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you're not necessarily being as smart as you can, I think. So I think keeping it simple is probably the best. But game planning wise, as a DC, if you do a lot, it's a little bit longer nights for us.
Yeah. I listened to it was something on Bobby Knight one time, the famous basketball coach up at Indiana, and they said it at some points during the game, if it wasn't going well, he's like, it doesn't matter what we're doing, you guys just go play. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes, and you can kind of add your opinion on this, I just think people try to outthink themselves a little too much. It's like, well,
Yep.
now they're doing this, and especially at high school. It's like, what are they even good at right now? Just do one freaking thing that works here and just stick with it. It just seems they outthink themselves a lot or get too
Yeah.
sneaky.
And I had this epiphany my first year as a defensive coordinator. And it really doesn't matter what I call, because over cover 3 for us is not a play where we're trying to get an interception, right? We had 2 interceptions on it because a defensive end backboarded one and made a great play, and a slot receiver pretty much threw the ball to our corner, So our kids were just playing fast and doing what they were supposed to do. I called over cover 3 a lot of other times that year, and they didn't result in interceptions or really good plays or anything. So I think, to me, as long it's not necessarily what you call, it's how you prepare your guys, what you teach them, and what you prepare them for that they're going to get out of that so they can play fast. And I think if you can do that, and you do that with your entire game plan and everything, you're going to have a way better game for your kids. And sometimes I've had a lot of great calls where I blitzed right into it and it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
But how many times did I run that in practice for that kid to see that? It may have been once, and he wasn't necessarily prepared for everything, to where, there's a stunt that we run all the time, and we run the stunt right into it and we get the TFL, and it's like, well, yeah, we practiced that a whole bunch of times.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not necessarily about dialing it up, but I tell you, there's nothing better than when you actually dial it up and it works.
Sure.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
You're like, hey, I think this one's going to be an interception. It is. best feeling. You feel like the smartest man in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when you're doing this, Coach, and again, thank you for always sharing all your stuff with us, because you've never said no anytime we've asked you. So thank you in advance.
Mm-hmm.
But you're doing this, and I want to know, okay, so JR, for those people who don't know, I'm a surgeon. So like everything I do in the OR is step, 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 step. You don't skip steps. You're following a script basically. How much for you is scripted so you know exactly what's going to happen on every play of team, offense, defense, down, distance, yard, hash, whatever it may be? Is that important to you, or is it just like, hey, we're going to play for a segment?
I actually love both. I think and Bass does a really good job of this for us in our practices. But like whenever we're doing like our team versus scouts, to me that is always scripted out. So I'm making sure that we're getting the exact calls versus the exact looks that they're giving us, to where, and that's more to me, we're not running full speed. It's more of a jog and talk than anything, to where we can make sure, hey, we're fitting everything up. Hey, we're getting to the correct drops. We're, seeing exactly where they need to go, and kind of talking through that. And if there's any mistakes, we stop practice, talk about it, rerun it, and get them kind of, because I think if you get a kid to like know something's coming, that's awesome for them, because now they can anticipate it. So I love that aspect in teaching. But I think there is, and we then on the other end, like usually at the end of practice, we do a good on good, offense versus defense, and that's totally unscripted. And I know just this year, us doing that really prepared me a lot more for calling a game and looking at situations and everything like that, because there is so much where you have to do it on the fly, and you have to. It made me do a lot better job this year of sticking to my game plan as opposed to just calling off the hip. That was the one thing I needed to really work on this year, was sticking on the game plan and not just trying to be Rain Man out there. And that really helped me a lot. So I really like both aspects. I think it's, what are you trying to get out of it?
Sure.
Yeah.
How is the spring season going to really affect you guys? Because you have to turn around and then again and play in a few months right after that.
Mm-hmm.
As far as everybody knows, I don't think they're going to move college football to the spring, JR. I don't think that's going to happen long term. You baseball guys will start getting all bent out of shape.
It's
or
a
whatever.
Communist plot. That's all.
Communist plot. So how is that going to affect you coaching? How's it going to affect the kids? You don't have to get on a soapbox if you don't want, but really what's it going to do?
I think the biggest thing it's going to do for us is like going into the spring, what is the spring going to consist of? Is it a full slate? Is it a half slate? If it's a half slate, how do you look at that season? Is it necessarily just a kind of, hey, let's get better, as like kind of almost like preseason games for the NFL? Or is it a full slate to where you can still win a conference championship and everything like that? And I know that's what we're really geared towards. But I think it's going to be, for us, hopefully a time where we can get some younger guys in and kind of really develop our program to where it could be a really competitive spring ball for us. But, I think it's definitely going to be one of those things where, maybe we're not pushing guys to their exact limit, because we know we got to turn around and play, in a couple months. So maybe not, not that we purposely run guys into the ground, but, if there's a kid that looks dead tired and he's looking at you like one more play, and it's like, no, you can come out. Like, we'll put someone else in and let's try to go get to the playoffs next year.
Right.
So I think it's going to be really interesting how everyone attacks it, because I think everyone's going to attack it differently, because I think everyone's at different stages in their programs, and it's just going to be interesting to see what they think is best for their program, because I know the one thing Bass always says, we're not trying to create a good football team. We're trying to create a good football program.
Yeah.
So I think whatever's going to benefit us the most as a program is going to be probably what we're going to do.
I'm kind of curious what your answer would be on this one, because I like breaking down film. That's kind of I just like that, and I think you have to like it to want to do a good job at it. So when you initially turn somebody on, let's say you've never played this opponent before, and you're scrolling through it for your first look, what are you looking at to start with? Are you looking at formations? Or are you just looking at personnel? Or are you looking at, what are you looking at?
The biggest thing I look at is formations and formations first, probably kind of just seeing, what type of team are they? If I don't have any knowledge of them, are they 12, 21 personnel type team? Are they, throw the ball over the yard type team? So I think a lot of times the formations kind of tell you, and I kind of start to get an idea, okay, this is what we run versus this is what we could run, we can keep this base. Oh, wow, they came out in this. This is something that we haven't necessarily seen yet. This is something we're going to have to talk about as a staff. Because as we get into our conference, a lot of the guys, we kind of know what they're going to run. But like last year, Lindenwood jumped in our league. And I remember putting them on for the first time. I was like, okay, what are they trying to do? Because I'd heard a whole bunch of different things. I heard they were a 12 personnel team. And I turn it on and I see that they're a 12 personnel team that's throwing the ball all over the yard. And you're like, oh, really? Wasn't prepared for that. Okay, let's get prepared for that then. And it wasn't anything that we hadn't seen, but to me, formations tell you a lot about an offense and how that offensive coordinator is kind of thinking and trying to use his personnel.
So I'll follow up on this. So if you have somebody, let's say that's, got 2x1 or 2x2, what's the first thing went through your head when I said 2x1 or 2x2? What are you thinking right then?
I'm thinking 2x1 or 2x2. 2x2, I'm basically thinking of either a 10 or 11 personnel formation, and whether that's 2x2 detached or 2x2 with a tight end attached or tight end detached, and then 2x1, I'm thinking, I hope they're not a split triple team. That's a totally different game plan that we got to make sure we talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
A little bit of scars from the first year of coaching.
Yeah, right. Right. I'm going to change topics, Coach, because I have my personal favorite, but you've been there 10 years now, so I want to know your favorite restaurant in Quincy.
Great one. Oh, that's a tough one because there's so many good places here.
Now we're going to tag them. We're going to tag them as soon as JR puts this podcast out.
Okay.
We're going to tag them.
They got a Twitter.
If they got a Twitter or an Instagram or a Twittergram Snapbook or some Slapchat stuff going on.
That's my favorite. Slapchat.
If they've got something going on, we're gonna tag them. So next time you roll in there, maybe you're not paying for the meal. I don't know.
Yeah. I love Chicks. Chicks on the River. They have they have these awesome. They're basically chicken fingers, and sometimes I kind of feel like a kid telling people about them, but they're about an inch big, or big around, and probably usually about 6 inches long, and they put them in all these different type sauces, and that's phenomenal. And they actually probably have one of the best burgers in Quincy too.
Wow.
Okay.
Interesting.
Love that place.
So, for me,
my wife's favorite.
What's it called? Tiramisu? Okay, I don't know that one.
That's the Italian place where birthday, anniversary, anything that I want to treat her very nice to, we're going tiramisu.
Okay.
All right.
So those are probably the top two for us.
For you? Okay.
Yeah.
So anytime my wife and I roll back into Quincy, JR, we go to Gem City Pizzeria. Okay.
You are big into pizza. I will just make this statement to anybody who's listening to all these. This dude knows pizza.
I do know pizza. We go to Gem City Pizza, but listen, JR, I get the nachos.
Oh, for God's sake.
Because they come in the pizza box, okay? As God is my witness, my wife can come in and tell you about it. They come in a pizza box. They're incredible. I mean, we'll go there and go and get them. It's awesome. It's very good. Gem City Pizzeria.
But get the
And,
nachos.
but you get the nachos. The pizza's good. Don't get me wrong. The pizza's good, but that's what we would go get.
Okay.
So, Coach Kelly, I'm going to tell you just how old I am. Oh boy. Okay. So when I got to Quincy, there was no Steak and Shake, but it was big news because
Look on his
Steak and
face.
I know because it was big news because during my time at Quincy, JR Steak and Shake showed up.
Oh, jeez.
So it was out on the other end of town.
Yeah.
It was not close. A lot of people didn't go there. But when recruits came in, JR, when recruits came in and my coach would say, hey, go take them to dinner, do whatever, I took them to Steak and Shake. Nobody else was around. I could talk to them. I could answer their questions. I wasn't taking them to other hot spots around town. And I certainly wasn't taking them anywhere to get like alcohol or anything like that. I wasn't doing that. I'm like, hey, man, I'm just telling you the right thing here. Okay. But JR, here's an interesting stat. And Coach Kelly, you're going to appreciate this. Every recruit I took out to dinner ended up coming to Quincy.
Oh, so we need to start taking Steak and Shake then.
So we got to tag chicks, tiramisu,
Gem City,
nachos, and then
Gem City. No, it's Gem, Jem, because it's Gem City. It's there's actually I'm not even gonna say the word because it sounds bad. There's actually a college there that works on fine gems. Yep.
Like a jeweler.
Yeah, but there's a name for the study of it. I'm not going to mention it. It sounds bad. All right. Don't bring it up, JR. Don't bring it up.
Okay. We'll just...
All right. All right.
I'll Google it.
You'll Google it. JR has one more question for you, Coach, because you're a D coordinator. So we're going to ask. And JR, take it away. We are way winning now, JR. So
yeah.
I mean, no pressure, Coach Kelly. No pressure, but we're winning. So just let's see what you answer here.
All right, Coach Kelly. So Coach Duke, when me and him were on the defensive side a few years ago, we tried to simplify things as much as possible when breaking down an opponent. And so we came up with this theory that we contend is correct, that there is only 3 ways to run a football. You can either run it inside the tackles, outside the tackles, or it's some type of option, which means it's either inside or outside. And so we put up a Twitter poll a long time ago, and we said, what does everybody think? And people disagree with us. And we said, come on the show, and, you will talk it out, crickets. And so everybody we've had on has agreed with us with a couple of exceptions here and there. Coach Ken Baum down at WashU said he thinks the quarterback sneak is just its own separate entity, and that's a mindset. And we're like, okay, we'll give you that. And somebody said, well, what about misdirection? It's like, well, where else are you going? You can only go one or two places. So our question is, what do you think? Do you think there's only 3 ways: inside, outside, and option?
I mean, I'd say that's pretty accurate. I mean, you can even toss in RPOs. They're either going to run the ball inside or throw the ball outside, which are still basically runs. And if you want to truly simplify it all the way down, like we kind of tell our guys, receivers can only go 3 ways: up, out, or in. You can only run the ball up the middle, on the outside. Yeah.
Yep.
I can see that.
We are so winning, JR. We are so winning. Okay.
We're like 26 for 26. I think Coach Ken Baum agreed with us. He just didn't want to say it. So.
No, he didn't want to say it. It's okay. And somebody else said misdirection, and I'm like, well, JR was like, where are you going, backwards?
Yeah, backwards is not a way to go in a football game.
Right.
You could go that way.
Offensive guys should make the backwards one go. I think that would be great for people. Do something we'll never expect, go backwards.
That's right, go backwards.
They may not be employed very long, but
that's all right. You only need it versus the Hawks. That's fine.
That's right. Oh, Coach Kelly, it's been great. You've been it for, I don't know, 45 minutes or so. And the way the show is played is that we believe tag is the oldest game you ever played, and the objective is to not be it. If you would like to continue to play tag and be it, that's up to you. But most people just want to tag somebody else. And here's the deal. If you tag somebody that is on the secret list of guests for JR and I, or we get to somebody on that list, we're going to send some money to your charity. It's not a lot of money. JR and I are pretty broke because we're doing all this ourselves. Maybe we just buy some people some nachos from Gem City or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But here's the thing. We have a list. We actually have a list, JR. You and I put it together.
Yeah, we have it.
I think people are starting
It's
to
not
think,
mythical. It's
yeah,
not like
mythical.
a unicorn. It actually exists.
It actually is this. And it's not like Barack Obama, okay? It's not. We're not trying to do that.
We'll take
just
him.
Trying.
You know?
We'll take him. I mean, if you're listening, Mr. President, it's okay. You come on.
Let's do it.
Come on.
Yeah.
But we have thousands of people listening now, Coach Kelly. And actually, JR, we need to make a QU competition. If Coach Kelly's podcast gets more listens than Coach Bass's podcast,
we'll do something.
We got to do something, JR.
We'll come up with something.
He did really, really well on the first day. The first day, Coach. He
All right, let's see here. Coach Bass is at just on SoundCloud is at 73 plays. And 73. So that was 8 days. So that's the competition.
That's his. Now we're also on iTunes and iHeartRadio,
everywhere,
and a bunch of stuff, Spotify, and all this stuff.
We're out of control.
So let's do this, JR. If his podcast beats Coach Bass's, we'll buy him dinner, chicks or tiramisu for his wife. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Let's do it. Yeah,
all right, we'll do it. We'll do it. So if you beat him. So if you want to play tag, who would you tag?
I would tag Atiba Bradley, who is currently the defensive coordinator at McKendree.
Okay.
And used to be the defensive coordinator here at Quincy. He's been at South Dakota, Mizzou, Western Illinois. So one of my biggest mentors in the coaching profession, and absolutely energetic and awesome guy.
Awesome.
Great.
Well, we look forward to that conversation. And, you know, JR, one thing I think is really, really clear. We've had 2 conversations up there in Illinois, and the Hawks are going to be just fine.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You guys are going to be good.
We got to go up in the spring. We need to do it. We need to
we need to go up there. And you know what, JR? If we do go up there, I'm going to show you there was actually a bowl game played by Quincy.
Really?
Okay. And it was a sanctioned bowl game, and the trophy's in there, JR. And because we won the Mississippi Mud Bowl or something, I don't know what it was called, but something like that. I used to know.
It was against Culver, wasn't it?
It was against Culver, JR, and my name is on that trophy.
So hang on. You played a bowl game against somebody across the river.
We did. It was a sanctioned bowl game. Yeah.
Where?
Yep. We did. It was sanctioned by, at the time, the NC2A or whatever, and it was a real thing. We played in it. Yep. We played in it.
Let's go do it.
And listen, trust me when I tell you, I don't know, a year ago or whatever, when we were there, it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago when we were there, don't think I didn't parade my kids in front of that and go, see, your dad did play college football. You know, look,
did it say backup punter on it?
No, it just says your name, JR.
Okay.
It just says your name.
Okay.
So it's cool. I'll take you by there, JR.
Let's check it out.
We're coming up, Coach. We're coming up.
Yep.
Okay.
There we go.
You figure out when. Now, if during that time, JR, they need to, try me out to punt, I'll be ready.
Yeah, Coach Kelly, you listen to that. So Coach Bass said it'd be a great thing. He can double as a team doctor. Do not put him at linebacker. Don't do that.
What? Are you kidding me? That'll be awesome. That'll be awesome.
Well, we'll get you a play at linebacker, but mainly you can punt. That way we can throw them off, and they're wondering why our linebackers back there punting. That'd be great.
Hey, listen. I'm pretty sure right now I could will myself through at least one quarter. I could will myself, just straight will, no warm up, no like trying to get ready, just sheer adrenaline and will for one quarter. JR. Now, Coach, come on. You could step out there for a quarter. Coach Kelly, you could.
I'd have to make sure Bass ran the ball out that quick.
Keep you off the field.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
It's been great. I can't wait to get to your buddy. That's going to be a good time too. Yeah. Is there a question you would like us to ask him?
Ooh.
Think about it. Tweet me. I'll send it to me on Twitter. Do whatever
Got
you
you.
got to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
But Coach, we're gonna have to off air. We're gonna have to get your shirt size. We're gonna give you one of those shirts that JR is wearing. They're amazing shirts. They're very comfortable. I wear it all the time.
Sounds
It's
good.
been an absolute pleasure, Coach. Thank you very much. You
Yeah.
are
Thank you
always
for inviting
invited
me
back
on.
to our. You're always invited back to our clinic for whatever you want to do.
Absolutely.
We're gonna blow that thing out this year. It's gonna be. We
We're
have
gonna
some
try.
big plans. We have some big plans for it. So
Are you guys still thinking about doing it in the spring?
it's
We'll
very
see.
possible. It depends on what's going to happen because of people playing, and JR's got this baseball thing he's trying to do. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
I go win titles. What do I do?
Yeah. He's
What do I do?
he's some incredible hitting coach or something. I don't know.
That's the
I have no
rumor.
idea.
I don't know. I'm not that good. I'm pretty good. I'm a good bike rider now.
Yeah, he is a very good bike rider.
I'm a good bike rider.
For Simmons, Duke, and Coach Kelly, it's a great day to be a Hawk. And JR, quick story. I want to say one more thing before we go.
Okay.
2 years ago, I was up at Quincy, and the 1993 football team that I was on got inducted into the Hall of Fame at Quincy. And to tell you one of my favorite parts of that ceremony, there was a saying that one of the coaches had. And one of the coaches who was out there coaching on defense, I believe, he would run out and yell, "All ye Hawks." And everybody on the team, Coach Kelly, do you know this?
No, I don't.
So everybody on the team just started yelling "Hawks, Hawks, Hawks" 3 times. We would yell it, right?
Okay.
So we're at the ceremony, and it was one of the coolest things. We're all 40-year-old something guys. Some are close to 50 because some dudes came in when they were late 20s, right? And
triple red shirt, but it's cool.
I know, right? And one of the guys, I don't remember who did it, was just saying, like, for people who couldn't be here and stuff. And one of the guys said out of nowhere, he goes, "All ye Hawks." And every dude in the room that was on that team, without missing a beat, goes, "Hawks, Hawks, Hawks." It was one of the coolest things of the entire weekend. I still think about it. It gets me emotional thinking about it, just the memories that flood through. But, I know, Coach Kelly, you and Coach Bass are creating stuff like that for kids all the time. We could hear the passion in your voice, and it's an absolute pleasure to know that you guys are taking care of my alma mater. So thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure.
He's J.R. Simmons. I'm Coach Duke. He's Coach Kelly. If you got any defensive questions, hit him up on Twitter. Reach out to him through his email on Quincy. You will not be disappointed. I've heard the guy speak. It's amazing up there. Thank you guys very much. God bless. Have a great night.
All righty. Good job.